For a while there, it felt like the world's biggest coffee chain might have had a little too much decaf in its system. After a pretty long slump, Starbucks is now claiming a major comeback. But is this turnaround for real? All right, let's get into it and see what the plan and the numbers really have to say.
So this was the big question on a lot of people's minds, right? From Wall Street all the way down to your local drive-thru. For a brand that's built on being a daily ritual for millions, something just felt off. The lines seemed to be getting longer, the vibe wasn't quite right, and pretty soon, the numbers started to show it.
And look, this wasn't just some small blip on the radar. We're talking about a really sustained period where the company just seemed to lose its magic. For a business that's all about constant growth and expansion, hitting a wall like this isn't just a problem. It's a huge warning sign that your core formula might be broken.
And the length of this slump was pretty staggering. I mean, look at this. 7 straight quarters. That's almost 2 full years, where a key metric called comparable store sales was either flat or actually negative. This wasn't just a trend anymore. It was a full-blown crisis, and a really clear signal that some major changes needed to happen, and fast.
And that change came in the form of a really ambitious new strategy. The company gave it a name, the Back to Starbucks plan. It was basically this massive effort to get back to the fundamentals, to what made them a global phenomenon in the first place.
Yeah, the company's leadership laid it out in the simplest terms possible with this quote. The message here was crystal clear. This wasn't going to be about small tweaks around the edges. No, this was a comprehensive, top-down strategy designed to fundamentally reshape both the customer experience and the business itself.
The whole plan was basically broken down into 3 core pillars. It's pretty straightforward. First, elevate the service. Second, reinvent the stores. And third, innovate the menu. A simple framework for what was, let's be honest, a very complex problem.
Okay, so let's dig into the details a bit. What do these 3 pillars actually look and feel like when you walk into a Starbucks today?
So the first pillar, service, is all about something they're calling green apron service. Now, let's just cut through the corporate jargon for a second. This is really about getting back to basics. Having enough staff on the floor to be fast, to be friendly, and to make that genuine personal connection that, frankly, was getting lost in the morning rush.
And to make this happen, they're pouring money into more labor hours and making sure stores are open by 5 a.m. for that early morning crowd. And behind the scenes, there's a new smart queue algorithm helping to sequence all the orders, from the cafe, the mobile app, the drive-thru, way more efficiently. The goal is super clear. Get your order in your hand in under 4 minutes.
All right, next up, the stores themselves. The old way of thinking was just about footprint. More stores, more dots on the map. But this new plan is a lot smarter. They realized they were running cafes that just weren't profitable or even very welcoming. So the new focus is all about quality over quantity. Close the stores that aren't working and invest big in the ones that are.
And when I say invest big, I mean it. We're talking about more than 1,000 uplift renovations planned by the end of 2026. The whole goal is to bring back that warmth, better seating, and that classic, cozy coffeehouse vibe that a lot of people felt had just kind of disappeared over the years.
And finally, the menu. This isn't just about launching new drinks, like the protein cold foam. It's also about fixing some of those longtime customer frustrations. They brought back the condiment bar. And, huge one here, they got rid of that annoying extra charge for non-dairy milks. It's all part of this bigger idea to redefine value to be about the entire experience, not just the price tag.
Okay, so that's the plan. Better service, better stores, a better menu. It all sounds great on paper, right? But here's the billion-dollar question. After all that investment, did any of it actually work? Let's take a look at the data. So before we see the result, you need to know what to look for. For a company like Starbucks, the single most important number is comps, or comparable store sales. It basically tells you if their existing stores are selling more or less than they did last year. It is the ultimate report card. And here it is. For the first time in 7 quarters, that number is positive. Now, a 1% global comp growth might not sound huge, but believe me, after nearly 2 years of going in the wrong direction, this is the turning point they were absolutely desperate for. The plan, it seems, is actually starting to work. And it's not just the comps. Overall global revenue was also up 5% to a whopping $9.6 billion. So more people are coming in and they're spending more money. This is that top-line growth the company said had to happen first.
Now, if we break it down by region, we see a pretty interesting picture. North America, which is their biggest market by far, finally stabilized at flat. But the real strength came from their international business, which was up 3%, and a really solid 2% growth in the super competitive China market.
And this is a really crucial but. This growth did not come cheap. All those investments in more staff, store renovations, and training meant that profits took a big hit. We're talking earnings per share down 34%. The company's argument, though, is pretty clear. You have to spend money to make money, and the bet is that profits will follow this newfound sales momentum.
So with the bleeding finally stopped and growth returning, what does the future of Starbucks actually look like? Where do they go from here?
Well, the view from the top is incredibly optimistic. I mean, the leadership team isn't just talking about a recovery anymore. They're talking about creating a version of the company that's better than it has ever been before.
And they've got a whole pipeline of new stuff to back that up. We can expect to see things like an upgraded bakery with more artisanal items, an expanded matcha menu, even some fun collaborations like one with Hello Kitty for the holidays. And yes, for everyone who's been asking for years, they are finally bringing back the eggnog latte.
So that leaves us with the big question. Starbucks has clearly turned a corner. They've invested heavily to fix their core problems and to win back customers. The early signs look promising, but the real test is whether they can keep this momentum going. So what do you think? Is the coffee giant truly back on track and brewing its best chapter yet?